Hey windsurfers, and welcome to a new video on this channel. As you might have seen, I recently developed and just released my own fin under my brand NP7, and as a result of that release video there were quite some questions about which fin and which fin size to choose. Fins are a whole big topic and there's a lot more to talk about, so be sure to subscribe to the channel because we will definitely go deeper into this and other windsurfing topics in the future. In this video I will answer the questions how you can know which fin fits to which board, and for those of you who are curious, which fins I'm using. And be sure to watch until the end of the video because I have one extra tip for you that you should definitely consider.
So if there are just 10 board brands, and there are definitely more, with 5 board ranges each range with 5 different sizes, you already have 250 different possibilities with just one fin size. And now let's assume you have 10 fin brands with 3 kind of fins, with sizes ranging from 30 to 40 centimeters. You now have a total of 250 times 300, 75,000 variations.
Now, unfortunately, I don't have a magic list with all the fin and board brands and which exact fin fits to which exact board. But I will tell you how to understand what is a right and what is a wrong combination.
In order to do that, we need to look at several different aspects: discipline and your goals, board size, sail size, conditions, height and body weight, and the specifics of the fin.
Okay, admittedly, this does sound a bit like rocket science. But don't worry, if you get 1 or 2 of them wrong, you will still be fine and you will have a good time on the water. This video will have a lot of information and therefore I just sent this out as a written guide to my newsletter subscribers. So if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe in the link below. So let's start with the discipline and your goals. So just like with choosing any part of your gear, you should ask yourself what kind of windsurfer you want to be. Will you want to do maneuvers, cruising around, so free riding, or do you want to become as fast as possible? The answer to this question will determine what kind of board and sail you're going to aim for, which will then determine which kind of fin you're going to aim for. Each kind of board has a bit of a range of fin types that you can use.
For example, in a free wave board, you can use a pure wave fin, a free wave fin, or a small freeride fin. In a free race board, you can use a freeride fin, a free race fin, or a race fin.
So knowing in what area you want to improve in will help you to decide which fin on which end of the spectrum of your board you want to use.
Here's another example. If you're using a freeride board and your goal is to become faster, you can use a free race or race fin in your freeride board.
And then another question is whether your level allows for such a step. To stick to the example from before, if you're just starting to use the foot straps and just starting to use the harness and you're getting used to the freeride board, probably a freeride fin is your best choice. A race fin might be a bit too fast and too loose for you. Once you feel that you reach the limits of your board, you can then upgrade by using, for example, a free race or race fin. The same obviously applies if you're using a free wave board and want to become a better wave rider. Now that you know which kind of fin you need, let's get more specific. The size of your board is the #1 determining factor for the fin size. So in order to understand why the fin size is so important, we have to first understand how the fin actually works.
So the fin shapes a vertical surface in the water. It's what gives you the drive forward. Let's start without the fin. As the wind hits your sail, it'll try to take you in the direction of the wind. As you're standing behind the sail on your board, the tail of the board will start rotating around the mast, pushing the nose into the wind. Now let's insert the fin. The board again starts to rotate around the mast, but can't because the fin in the water holds the force. However, that force needs to go somewhere. And I now let you make an educated guess where it goes. Thanks to the profile of the fin with a relatively round leading edge, a camber in the front of the fin, and a sharp trailing edge, the fin promotes the water flow in the right direction. This creates forward drive and from a certain speed will start lifting the upwind rail.
So now you understand that we're pushing the fin sideways. Even more so when you're racing, that's when you really push the rail of the board from the side, but also when you're freeriding and you're kind of standing more upright, when you start planing, you still apply pressure sideways through the grip of the board. So regardless of how much, there's always an element of pushing the board sideways, rather than just from the top. This becomes especially important once you start going faster. More about that in a different tutorial on another day. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that. But it's important to know that the pressure you can apply to the fin increases with the leverage your board lets you actually put on the fin.
Therefore, on a wider and thicker board, you will automatically apply more pressure to the fin, which is why wider boards need bigger fins. And of course the other way around, more narrow boards need smaller fins. If your board is too wide for the length of the fin, you will be more likely to over push and create a spin out. And if your fin is too big for the width of the board, you don't have enough leverage for the fin and you will get overlifted and will lose control.
To find out the right size, I once came up with a rough rule of thumb. You'll divide the width of your board by 2 and you add a few centimeters. If we take a, let's say, 80 centimeter wide board, you will get a fin of around 42 centimeters, which in most cases is quite accurate. That being said, even more important is the tail width of your board, because that's the point from where you apply the leverage. So such a rule doesn't always work. And because this is relatively complex, most board brands actually provide a chart, mostly on their website, about which fin size to use in which board, and this is definitely your best starting point for the size of the fin. From this starting point, you need to consider a few more things. One of them is the sail size. A bigger sail will increase the previously mentioned drifting sideways force, and therefore you will have more pressure on the fin. This means you may need to add 1 or 2 centimeters to the suggested size of the fin of your board brand. Whereas when you're on a smaller sail, you might want to have a fin 1 to 2 centimeters smaller. So you might have realized by now that this is something really important, and I need you to pay close attention.
All parts of the gear relate to each other. Imagine you have a big fin with a big sail, which is what I just explained, right? But you have a too small board. It just won't work. So a bigger sail needs a bigger board and a bigger fin. And of course the other way around. Also for the sail size, the board brands typically give a good suggestion of what is suitable.
Now this all sounds a bit annoying, but you can also use this to your advantage. Since we don't have sail sizes in 0.2 square meter steps, you can actually use the fin to fine-tune your setting according to the conditions. Difficult conditions like strong wind or chop should be an indication for you to use a fin that allows you to be more comfortable and handle the pressure in the sail. Similarly to what I mentioned before, the skill dictates how much you can go to the higher end of the spectrum of your board. This even goes for the kind of fin. Are you fully powered up on your freeride kit? Take a freeride fin. The thicker profile and the bigger outline of the fin will keep you slower and more in control. When it's very windy and you're well powered up, there will be more force from the sail. If you're expecting to be rather powered up on your board and sail setup, you would choose a fin size a centimeter smaller than you normally would. Are you expecting to be rather underpowered? You'd use the fin a centimeter bigger. And lastly, your height and body weight also play a role in the equation. As a rule of thumb, you can say that taller people can use fins more efficiently. So, assuming the same weight, they will get more power from a smaller fin than shorter people. However, since taller people also tend to be heavier, this actually evens out quite nicely. So if you're taller than the average, but still in good shape, you might not need a bigger fin. You might simply need a bigger gear setup in general. If, however, your body weight is a bit more disproportionate, so having more kilograms on a shorter body than average, you may need fins slightly bigger than what your board brand would promote. Okay, let's conclude. You have several factors that determine whether you should slightly increase or slightly decrease the fin size, depending on board size, sail size, conditions, weight and height.
If you choose on the bigger size for all the factors, you might end up with a fin 4 to 5 centimeters bigger than what is suggested for your board. In my experience, that would throw off the balance of your setup. So always try to stay within a range of maximum plus or minus 3 centimeters of what is the suggested fin size of your board.
In the beginning, I mentioned that I have an extra hack for you and that I will tell you about my personal fin sizing. So try to see it this way. For me, it's a lot about getting to know the fin. Every fin has a specific profile, layup, outline, and it has its own characteristic. Personally, I want to get to know my fins so well that I know exactly how it will react to every gust and every chop on the water. I tried to stay within a small range of fin sizes for each board, and over the years I also tried to stay on the same fin brand from board to board. This also allows me to trust the fin blindly and make sort of a personal relationship with the fin. I use carbon fins, which provide a lot of reflex, and that gives you a very direct feeling, a very direct feedback from the water. But it also allows for them to be built with a very slim profile, which makes them faster. And then the extra reflex also allows for a fin size typically 1 to 2 centimeters shorter than a traditional glass fin. I personally now only use my own NP7 fins, obviously, because we managed to find a perfect blend between a fin that lifts the board high out of the water and creates a lot of power and light wind. Yet when you get pressure on the fin and when the pressure increases, the blade opens up kind of like a sail and keeps the pressure on the foot very even. And this makes it a really good upgrade from a free ride or free race fin, and also makes it an incredible performance fin for me on the race course.
On my small slalom board, 62.5 centimeter wide, I use between 31 and 33 centimeters, but mostly 32 centimeters. On my 72 wide board, I use a 36 to 38 centimeter fin, but mostly 37 centimeter. And lastly, on the 85 centimeter slalom board, I use fins between 44 and 46 centimeter, but mostly a 45.
A long video with a lot of information, and now it's time for you to apply this and get some water time. If I could help you a bit, be sure to leave us a comment below, subscribe to the channel, if you're not yet, of course. Time for you to get on the water, and I see you guys in the next video.